Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is John Passalacqua, who's the CEO and Director of First Phosphate, who are a mineral development company fully dedicated to extracting and purifying phosphate from the production of cathode active material from lithium iron phosphate battery industry. First Phosphate is committed to producing high quality purity level in responsible manner and with low anticipated carbon footprint. John's an international business strategist with over 35 years of extensive technology and capital markets experience, and was recognized as one of the top international business strategists during the early internet era. He has placed strong emphasis on strategic partnerships and cost-effective development as core elements of the company's growth strategy. He advocates for maintaining low capital and operational expenditure whilst constructing commercially viable facilities to support long-term expansion. In addition to his corporate leadership, John actively engaged in discussions on global trade policy and its impact on the LFP battery industry, and advantages in this rapidly evolving industry. And he's on the podcast today to give us a little bit of history and the vision of First Phosphate, their mining practices, community engagement initiatives, technology they're using, the phosphate market, and a lot more. Just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Hawcraft, who are leaders in the property risk management in the mining industry since 1992. They offer insurance risk surveys, construction risk reviews, asset criticality assessments, and more. Working across 600 sites globally, Hawcraft supports all areas and disciplines of mining, minerals, and resources. So if you're looking for any property risk insurance management services, then please visit their website at www.hawcroft.com. All the details are in our show notes. John, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Great, Rob. Great to be here.
Thank you very much as well. And as we always start these podcasts off, and I know you're an avid listener, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your career, your background? Obviously, I mentioned a little bit in the introduction, but I wondered if you could just tell us, run us through how your career's developed, maybe from an early age to present day.
Yeah, so I started on the floor of the Toronto Stock Exchange about 1989, just after that crash at the time, and that was kind of the end of manual trading on the floor. And then I saw a piece of that, the manual trading, and then all the electronization of the exchange, et cetera, et cetera. I've worked as a market maker. I've had my own proprietary trading strategies. I also have my own proprietary family office affairs, and now I'm invested in what our family office invested in, which was First Phosphate, and I'm running the company as the CEO and here to make a difference. So that's been my career, all the way from trading to running the company.
Why don't you just give us an overview, a snapshot of First Phosphate?
Yeah, so First Phosphate is basically sitting in what is the most incredible area of the world for high purity igneous phosphate, which is really important. That is phosphate that can make a lot of this battery acid, purified phosphoric acid that goes into LFP batteries. So we're located in a very, very rare portion of in Quebec, Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. It's the only real place in North America with the hard rock phosphate, and one of the few places in the world, and one of the only places in the Western world. So because of this very high purity phosphate from hard rock, it makes a lot of the acid that can make a lot of LFP batteries. And it can be really, a really focal point for the launch of LFP battery in North America. As you know, 70% of batteries out there are lithium iron phosphate batteries now. Mostly are all being made out of China, and that needs to be desperately onshored here in North America. So we're sort of the raw material and processing arm for that development.
Can you explain why obviously phosphate is so crucial to obviously lithium iron phosphate battery industry, and particularly regarding obviously energy security amid current geopolitical tensions, especially those surrounding China's dominance in the battery materials?
Yeah, so what happened is, as everybody's very familiar with nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries, basis of lithium, but there's also the lithium iron phosphate batteries, which basically, they replace the nickel, manganese, cobalt for the iron and the phosphate. Now, those batteries have snuck up on everybody, and they're now 70% of what's produced there in the world. They're very important. And the phosphate is really important in those batteries. But the problem is you need a very, very high purity phosphate. It's just like all these materials. Like when you're making the NMC batteries, you need high purity nickel, manganese, and cobalt. Well, here you need high purity phosphate. And about 95% of the world's phosphate, it goes into agriculture, and it's a less than pure type of phosphate, and it cannot make purified phosphoric acid for batteries. So to make purified phosphoric acid for batteries, you need to start off with a really large quantity of fertilizer-based acid, and you just take skim the best off the top, or you start with this very pure igneous rock, which almost 95% of it becomes purified phosphoric acid for batteries. So what that means is that with this high purity hard rock phosphate that we directly make the purified phosphoric acid for the batteries. We do not have to play around in the commoditized fertilizer world, nor do we have to be beholden to that, which would be 95% of your operation. So we can have an operation which is 100% focused on downstream technology, the LFP battery.
Can you discuss First Phosphate's corporate vision for creating obviously a robust North American-based phosphate supply chain, and also how this supports obviously domestic battery production whilst reducing dependency on international suppliers?
Yeah, so I mean, Rob, it's quite simple. Basically, we start at the beginning of the supply chain, which is the hard rock phosphate. We're moving towards processing that into purified phosphoric acid, and then using that purified phosphoric acid together with iron and lithium to make lithium iron phosphate cathode active material. And that's basically the powder that goes into the batteries, into the battery cells, which go into the battery packs, which then go into making things like robotics, small scale mobility, EVs, AI data center batteries, batteries for battery energy storage. So it's supplying that whole first part of the supply chain, the dirty work that you need absolutely to be able to localize the supply chain here in North America and Western Europe.
What are some of the environmental advantages, obviously, of phosphate-based LFP batteries compared to traditional lithium ion chemistries? And also, how is obviously First Phosphate actively promoting responsible mining practices and community engagement?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, Rob, because the hard rock phosphate is actually very, very clean. It's amongst the purest in the world. So when you process that into the phosphoric acid to make the LFP cathode active material, you create a lot of gypsum. And the gypsum coming out of this process, because of the purity of the igneous rock, is completely recyclable. It can be made into plaster, wallboard, panels for homes. Whereas when you're dealing with the sedimentary deposits for phosphate, the fertilizer-based ones, they make these massive heaps of radioactive gypsum that just stays in the environment, and it's been a big issue in the Carolinas and Florida, for instance. So that's a very clean method. Then the batteries themselves, once you make LFP battery, I mean, obviously batteries help with the decarbonization, but you're not dealing with any of the sulfates. You're not dealing with the nickel, manganese, cobalt, all the issues around cobalt, and also the sourcing of the nickel and the manganese. You're basically dealing with iron powder, and you're dealing with very high purity phosphate. So it's a very clean process. And then also the LFP cathode active material, once it needs to be recycled, it can be easily recycled because iron and phosphate already go into fertilizer. So there are methods to recycle those batteries, many different methods, but generally it's a lot less toxic than some of the other batteries recycling processes out there.
Can you highlight some of the recent innovations with obviously phosphate and battery sectors and explain how First Phosphate positions itself as a leader driving growth and the broader energy transition?
Yeah, so I mean, the innovation is obviously using this hard rock phosphate to make a lot of purified phosphoric acid. It's been done. There's been a couple companies in the world that have been doing this for a long time, and it's a much cleaner process, as we just discussed. The only thing is, there's a lack of this rock, and there's a lack of this hard rock, especially in the Western world. There's right now the only producer is pretty much Russia, and obviously that's problematic. They use it all for themselves, and you have the sanctions and this and that. But there's going to be a need for a lot of this rock in the future. So really, the innovation is using this rock to make a lot of purified phosphoric acid for the LFP battery. There's also an innovation around adding a little bit of manganese to the LFP. They call it LMFP, and that makes a battery that is equivalent to nickel, manganese, cobalt. So really, when you look at the nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries, they're really high end for really high end electric vehicles, but that's not more than 2, 3, 4, maybe 5% of the global market. So with LMFP, you get to that same level, but for all the other 95% of battery energy storage, robotics, AI data centers, small scooters, bikes, things like that. The energy storage around hydro dams, around solar and wind, all that's done on LFP now. That's why this is now 70% of the battery chemistry out there and going even higher.
How does First Phosphate uniquely leverage technology, obviously compared to other mining operations? And also, can you give us an example of technology significantly enhancing operational efficiency and sustainability?
I'm a big believer, Rob, in using commercial technology that's already out there. I'm not a big believer in bench and pilot and all these sort of experimental and test technology. I believe certainly there is a place for R&D and there's a place for that in the supply chain. And you always have to be going after the next mousetrap. But we really like to use commercial technology that's already out there. The beauty about processing igneous rock and making purified phosphoric acid is that technology already exists out there. Our partner, which is the largest producer of purified phosphoric acid right now in the world out of Europe, is licensing that technology to us to do it. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's technology that's been there for 70 years. Also, our process for then making iron phosphate and lithium iron phosphate, those processes out there. We're dealing with an existing company that already has that process nailed down. So all of our processes are basically commercial based, and we're going to be starting off in small scale commercial and everything, skipping bench and pilot. Why? Because this is proven technology that's out there, and that's what I believe in, at least to get started, as opposed to be sitting in R&D for decades upon end. So we're ready to go any day.
You've spoken about the effects of global trade policy on the LFP battery market. What strategies do you believe are critical for companies navigating these international challenges?
Well, as you know, Rob, I mean, we don't know what the landscape is going to look internationally. It's shifting very quickly right now. Well, we do know that there's going to be more of a trend towards local production, and there's going to be more barriers to trade out there. So I do believe that you have to perfect your process in one country, and then you might need to, just kind of like in the old days, establish operations in many different countries, just in order to get around those trade barriers and tariffs and whatever else it might be. So we think it's going to be very important to be present in various localities. But you have to perfect first in one locality. And obviously, our mine can only be in one locality. That's going to be in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, Canada. But from there, we expect to be able to, replicate and reproduce the downstream processes in other countries as well.
Yeah. Obviously, coming from North America, what's your, I suppose, outlook for the mining industry, with obviously the new administration coming in and what Trump's done so far? What are your thoughts on how this may play out?
Well, I think the one good thing about Trump the first and then Biden and Trump the second is that they had one thing in common, is that they were all for critical minerals, right? And there was a little bit of a scare on EVs and what would happen under the second Trump administration, and it doesn't seem that bad. I mean, critical minerals, economy, business is really at the top of minds of all of these countries, and so that definitely helps us out. So it's just a matter of seeing how this is going to move, and I think we just have to react every day. But I think it's pretty positive out there. I think critical minerals is not going to go away, and whoever the next president is in 3-4 years, and the other leaders of states across the world, everyone's talking critical minerals. So for mining, it's just a matter of being properly positioned, having the right project, having the right management team, having the right approach. And I think mining is going to shine into the future.
Yeah. Leading a company like First Phosphate obviously involves balancing innovation with operational discipline. How would you describe your leadership style, and how has it evolved over the years?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you ask me, what was it like to run a business 5 years ago, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I mean, I've been running businesses, all my life since I was about 8 years old. I think I started with a paper route, if anybody remembers what those things were. But I mean, it's such a rapid evolution. The style of business and leadership right now is more fluid. It's more almost like you need to have your 3, your 6, your 9, your 12-month and your 2 and 5-year plans, et cetera, and your 10-year plans. But really, you're dealing more and more on these sort of one day plan or 1 week, 1 month, and it's just shifting very quickly. You could get upset at it, you could get frustrated with it, but I think this is also a good opportunity for leadership to shine, leadership that can work fast, can move fast, can pivot fast. So, I come from a technology background. As you know, I've been a technology entrepreneur on the internet. Like I said, I've been on the floor of the Toronto Stock Exchange. I've seen the whole movement from manual trading to electronic trading. I've been very a big part of that too, and adapting and trailblazing on some of that stuff. So that's what we continue to do. We look at ourselves as a technology company, and we move at the speed of technology. And the mine is there as backwards integration. So you're moving. I think everybody's kind of become a little bit of a tech play nowadays in that you got to move fast, you got to pivot fast, you got to make decisions on the fly. But at the same time, you have to be grounded in what you're doing. But yeah, it certainly is. It's not for the faint of heart business nowadays, and you have to maintain liquidity is very important. You have to keep your costs low. And you have to be able to seize opportunities at the same time, not go too fast and get your neck chopped off. It is really it's a dicey game out there, business nowadays. But I love it. I live for that, and those are my skills, just being flexible and being adaptable.
You obviously, following on from what you've just said, you've come from the tech industry. What kind of things are they doing in the tech industry that they could actually implement into the mining industry? Obviously, the mining industry's been around for many decades and centuries, and sometimes it is slow to react to change. What would you say that they could be doing differently that maybe you're doing in the tech? Bearing in mind, obviously, mining is a completely different industry. Is there things that you see that could be implemented in our industry to make maybe systems or processes improved?
So obviously, Rob, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but that's exactly what we've done at First Phosphate. I mean, I don't know how to run business any other way. I don't know how to run a mine. I don't come from mining. I mean, most of the big success stories out there are from people who didn't come from mining. I don't want to be arrogant in that way, but it's because you come at it from a different standpoint, and you exact a different kind of standard on it, a different way of looking at things. But I have tremendous respect for the mining industry, everybody around the mine that we're building. We use a lot of, we're doing things traditionally in there, but at the same time, we're moving this downstream very quickly. I think one of the big innovations that First Phosphate did is, we looked at not just the mine, but the mine as part of a downstream process, and the necessity to not just put something out of the mine and think somebody's going to buy it, but to be the whole part of that downstream process, not only to have partners in that process, but also to define the way those partners mesh together and to show the leadership downstream. That's what's really important, because at the end of the day, I start from the technology industry, so I'm looking at this as a technological product, which is the battery, and how do I get that produced all the way back into the mine? So we're very cognizant of that. So I think that it develops and shapes the mine. We've almost pulled the mine forward, as opposed to the mine just sitting there and figuring out what to do with it. We've pulled the mine forward into the whole downstream supply chain. So it's all synergized. It's all very how would you say it's synergistically tied to the downstream, and that has a lot of cost advantages and operational advantages, and quite frankly, is the way of the future in these integrated supply chains. I mean, when we first started, people said, well, what you're doing, you're nuts, you're never going to make it. And then they said, well, okay, you're kind of getting lucky. And now they're kind of saying, well, maybe you're the model for the future. So I don't know. We shall see, but I don't know how to do it any other way, and it's going great. And we're just loving it, and every day we just get up charged, and we got a great team around it, and everybody's very pumped. So I guess we are doing some things right, but it is certainly not traditional, but it is also very traditional. Business is a very traditional thing, but you have to be able to think out of the box. That's what we're doing, melding it all together in something that makes sense.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously management team. Just wondering if you just tell us a little bit about the executive management team and obviously leading figures within First Phosphate.
Yeah, so our president is Armand McKenzie. He was just moved up to president from VP. He's just a great mining leader, been around the mining industry for a long time, especially in Quebec, very well placed within government circles. He leads a lot of our public relations. What I really like about Armand as well, he was born in traditional Innu, which is indigenous trapping land. He was a trapper as a baby, came from the land. and has built his way all the way up in the mining industry. So he knows the mining industry very, very well. He also knows, obviously, the indigenous community very well. He's represented the indigenous communities across North America up to the UN level. So, I mean, we just couldn't get anybody better in terms of, being able to understand the mining industry and basically, our role in there and how to work those relationships properly. So Armand is leading the team there. And then we've got David Dufour, who's also got a very deep experience in the mining industry. He's right from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. He's worked on projects in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, and he's very, very close to the community. If Armand is close to the indigenous community, then David is very close to the Allophone community, which is the regular European-based community, and we're working very hard to get this going. We're blending in everything very locally. We're working very closely with local community. That's our really big strong point, is making a mine that's right for everybody. And so David deals a lot with that and operations and just making sure that everything's just right and that we're making the right moves in the community and getting the proper social acceptability and being a part of the community and benefiting and enjoying to be a member of that community. So David's there as a strategic vice president. Then we have another number of very important staff. We've got Gilles Laverdiere, who runs all of our geology. Just been excellent since the beginning. And countless people that I couldn't even start to go into everybody, but a really well-oiled team, and very happy to be together. We've had very little attrition, keep growing the team and just keep getting better, and everybody just keeps melding more and more together, which is great.
Good to hear. Lastly, what's the short to medium term look for First Phosphate, and if there's anything else that you would like to add to give our audience?
Yeah, so right now we just finished our PEA study. So the most important thing, the next thing is going to be to move into the feasibility study. So we're planning our next steps for that. Just so you know, Rob, we trade at 1% of our PEA value, so it's a lot of great upside to go in the company. So that's our next steps. We're also looking to build out or start the process of feasibility studies on our downstream processing facilities. That is our phosphoric acid plant and the lithium iron phosphate. So we're very busy with all of that and defining our resource and getting to that feasibility study. Those are really the next major steps, and getting the involvement of some larger players involved in the capital structure, of which first and foremost our local indigenous community. So we're working on all of that right now.
Good to hear, John. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing obviously your story around First Phosphate and what you're looking to achieve. And good luck for the remainder of the year. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they want to obviously follow the story, have any questions in what you're doing, how can they go about doing that? What social media platform channels are you on?
Yeah, so we're on. So first of all, our stock symbol is PHOS, like phosphate, Peter, Harry, Oscar, Sam, on the Canadian Securities Exchange. We also trade in Frankfurt, KD0. We also trade on the OTC QB as FRSPF. We have our website, www.firstphosphate.com. You can always reach out to me at john@firstphosphate.com. And also we're very present on YouTube. This video will obviously be on YouTube. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll get a lot of good bites. I tend to comment a lot about what's going on in the industry around batteries, LFP, phosphate, and those things, and also international politics. And I try to do it in a very neutral way. So I'm sure it can make everybody happy, no matter which side of the spectrum or which planet you sit on. Hopefully you could just come in and engage and just, appreciate just the informational value of what I do on LinkedIn. I try to do that. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
Yeah, that's great. All these would be, all the details would be in the show notes of company's podcast. So for easy access. So thank you for your time, John. Maybe you want to come on next year and give us an update on First Phosphate and what you've achieved during 2025.
Yeah, that'd be great, Rob. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be in front of your viewers, and all the best to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. Talking about phosphate. Not many times we have guests on the podcast talking about phosphate. So please share this across your networks, your contacts within the mining industry, but also obviously contacts outside the mining industry as well, just to let everyone know what a wonderful industry mining is. So thank you for listening, and until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.